All right, I believe we are live and going. So, welcome to ASN Pull Up a Chair, episode 2. I made it to 2, so that's a good thing, right? I didn't get canceled
Yeah,
yet, and we already got some people in the chat room. That's nice.
cards
Um,
endorsements.
so, yeah. So let me introduce today's guest because you heard enough of me last week. So I got these wonderful gentlemen on today that have a lot of experience, including the two dogs behind Mike there. That they're really good gamers.
Yeah.
Um, but let me introduce these three guys and then have them kind of introduce themselves. But we got Michael, who is what I would call a co-op genius. I mean, he don't like the word genius, but he is. Michael is a great co-op guy who runs some co-op leagues. He's in one with me in the XHL. So it'd be nice to hear some things that Mike has to say about the co-ops and how those work and some benefits of those. Also on, I've got Tom Abbott, and Tom is a massive inside pitch guy who also likes payoff pitch, and he's from Detroit, so he's a big Tiger replay guy.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
we'll hear a little bit from Tom, and then our featured guest, Mr. Grant Fines, who runs a fantastic 47. You know, Grant, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I actually like your football better than I like your hockey. I love them both, but I really got into that football because it was just so different, especially at the time before everybody started coming out with a lot of these express ones.
Right.
That football game, to me, I was like, wow, I can really get a game done in a lot faster time and still get all the stats. So I was really deep into your football game when it came out. I really appreciate it. I love the hockey too, but that football for me was really good. So we'll hear from Grant, and I really want to talk to him about his developer experiences, and I want to get his viewpoint, how he sees the community from a developer, and how he tackles feedback as a developer. So little unique things. Plus, just have him in here on some roundtable discussions. So, without further ado, let's kind of walk around. Just a quick introduction on your own. We'll start out with you, Mike.
Hi, everyone. Mike Canestrari here. I'm located on the East Coast in Connecticut. Uh, Started gaming probably when I was 10 or 11 years old, and did that through a little bit through high school. And then after that, it was college, family, and everything. And 40 some years later, about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, got back into it. And boy, did I get back into it. Took the deep dive and haven't looked back. Kind of wishing I was about 30 years younger, but it's been fun the last 3 years. The people that I have met in this community, including John, Grant, I've met Grant in person out at in Denver, and just a lot of people that I have met. And where I am from 3 4 years ago in this community is fascinating. I'm on a show here. I have a YouTube channel. Uh, I'm in a bunch of co-ops. I go to different conventions. I go to IndieCon. Have my own convention with Dave Gardner. Uh, Having our second one in this coming May. Never would have thought that would have ever happened. And pretty much that's it in a nutshell.
Great, thanks, Mike. Tom, you wanna go ahead and go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm from Grand Blanc, Michigan, which is about an hour north of Detroit. Other than a 4 year stretch where we lived in Chicago for a while, I've been a lifelong Michigander. So I'm kind of a homer, Tigers, Red Wings. I don't really care too much about basketball, but Pistons. I used to work at the Palace of Auburn Hills back in the 90s when the Pistons were champions, and worked right on the floor. So I was like, arm's length away from tons of celebrities and basketball players. So you'd think I would like basketball, but I don't know. I don't know. Baseball is my main game. That's the game I don't really play any other games. I'm open to learning other games, but that's just the game I know and love. And I was introduced to APA back in late 70s. My cousin, excuse me, brought the game over, and I just fell in love with it. We played so many games. We would call the games. We actually one time had a little organ, and we didn't know how to play it, but we came up with a couple of little charge songs. that we would play.
Nice.
And yeah, I played that for a couple of years, and then just it's a typical story. You hear it all the time. The cards just went into the basement. 40 years later, I don't know what got into me. I just saw them down there, got them out, and a spark went off. And next thing you know, I'm getting everything all figured out for APA, and I got going on that, and then I got interested in payoff pitch, and I'm really bad at always wanting the shiny new thing. So every time something comes around, or I just, something piques my interest. But right now, my core games are APA, basic, inside pitch, payoff pitch, replay, and Status Pro Advanced through Digital Diamond. So yeah, that's I've been back at it for about a year and a half now. I have a YouTube channel, but my big issue is I just don't have a lot of time. If I get in literally a couple games a week, I'm doing fine, and so I started that channel, and, it just I haven't been able to give it much attention. So it kind of sits there on the shelf gathering dust. So, but yeah, that's my story.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Tom. I appreciate you being here. Grant, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm living in St. George, Utah now. I've been here for about 25 years. I moved here from Canada. Thus, that's where the 49 came from, the 49th parallel that separates Canada and the US. So, almost, no, not quite half my life on both sides, more in Canada still, but hopefully I'll get to half and half. That'd be nice. Anyway, a typical story, like everybody else, played a bunch of different board games, Pater, a game which was a really great sim on Canadian football, and then got away from it, had kids, ended up working, of material science background, and I still am active in another project. I call it my other project or my science project, and that takes up more of my time than the gaming does. But I love the gaming because when I kind of got back into it, and so 2009, I think I first reached out to Keith about, I think it was Cold Snap Football, or he didn't have lacrosse. It was Cold Snap Football. That's when I just had done enough time on computers that I wanted to do tabletop. So had I planned on being a designer? No, not even. 6 months before I released the first iteration of 49 football, which was in 2017, I built a game for me to play. I was just looking for a good football game, and so that's kind of where I came from. So the designing, the publishing, the getting it out there, that I never had a plan. I've just been following my nose basically for that for the last number of years.
That's great. Let me start off kind of a discussion that I think this kind of hits everybody, and if it doesn't, tell me it doesn't hit you. But I think we all played when we were kids, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then there was that time off that you had to take because life hit you, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. What brought you back? What brought you back? Was there a season? Was there a game that you saw? Was there an ad that you saw? What brought you back to tabletop? And Mike, I'll put you on the spot first. And what brought you back to tabletop?
It was just one night. I was just searching around on the internet, looking for something, and I saw golf games, and I said, I've played golf, don't play anymore, but I said, that'd be kind of cool. Let me look for a golf game out there, and doing searches, and what do I come up with? I come up with the History Maker Golf. I said, that sounds pretty cool. Didn't know anything about the company or the game, but kind of did some reviews and watched some videos. I said, that's pretty cool. And that was the start of down the rabbit hole. It's a lot bigger than a rabbit hole.
Elephant hole, right?
Yeah. The black hole is more like it.
Yeah.
And fell in love with that game. Second game I got from play, believe it or not, was High Lie. And then I got, what was after High Lie? I'm trying to think. It wasn't baseball. Don't remember offhand what it was.
Was it Hockey Blast by chance?
It might have been. I ended up meeting Keith in October of 22 when he came out to Hartford, Connecticut, and did a one-day get together, and he was showing off the new basketball game that he had, and they played the playoffs for the Major League Baseball. And they used History Maker Express, which I thought was pretty cool. And the person I was sitting with playing said, "Oh, if you like this, you're gonna like History Maker Baseball." And a couple weeks later, that showed up on the doorstep, and the rest is history. It's just been, a lot of History Maker Baseball, and then finding other baseball games out there. I'm more into baseball. I have a lot of other games. Baseball is my big one, and yeah, it's incredible how much stuff I've gotten in the last 3 years.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you on that.
But it's fun.
How about you, Grant? How did you get back to doing all this?
I needed a break from, working the 70, 80-hour weeks and in the computer, although my work was mostly they were manufacturing, and so I spent a lot of time on the manufacturing floor because I was a technology guy. But it was just I really enjoyed Canadian sports action football. I played a lot of baseball, Sports Illustrated baseball way back in the day, Status Pro, and so it was just kind of like thing that I can just immerse myself into. I don't have to worry about anybody else. It's just going to be me. And so I thought, let me find a good Canadian football. So I would say it was Canadian football that really drew me back. And that's what got me full snap football. And then right around that time, I was enjoying lacrosse. One of my best friends was one of the coaches in the National Lacrosse League. And so I got to hang out with him. I used to go for weekends with him. He was in Colorado for a while and San Jose for a while. So I got to be the guy who got to shoot on the backup goalie when they were practicing down at the other end. So had a lot of fun with that. So then I started at that point to, why not just see if I can figure out how to come up with a lacrosse game? And so that all snowballed from there. And yeah.
That's interesting. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. Yeah, and Micah had a great. I met Micah. I think some of you probably met Micah at the last Play convention.
Yep.
From Cleveland. Big shout out, Micah, because I'm a Cleveland guy. I grew up there. So, but yeah, he said his dad has been playing the '70s season of Sports Illustrated since 6 years old. He's still at it. So it's nice to have Micah in the community. Getting some of that youth in and. He's got some great stuff going on that he's always posting about. All right, Tom. Well, I know you're the busy family man. That's kind of what you represent. And not that the rest of us aren't busy family men, but I know you finding time's always been hard. So how did you find any time to even get back in?
I don't know. I don't really know what was the spark. I think maybe I was just down the basement one time and I stumbled upon my old Abbott cards, and I've got them right here. And you can see there's tape. The lid's missing or whatever, the flap. They're all colored.
Oh, look at those cards, well used.
And I don't know. I just got them out in my hands, and some kind of nostalgia bug just bit me. And next thing you know, I'm going through and researching and making sure the cards are on the right teams. And I had no idea that this community was out there. I think I just looked up APA out on Facebook, and I found a group, and then one group led to another group, and then I'm learning about different games. But time that is the issue there. So I just have to, and that's why when I play my games, for me it's more of an experience. I savor my games. I'm not looking to get through as many games as I possibly can. I like to, take my time with a game. I might a certain player may pop up, and I might say, "Hey, I wonder what's going on with that guy. This is the '70s. Is he still alive? Whatever." And I'll go out to Baseball Reference, and I'll start doing a deep dive. And I might take a half-hour break from my game just researching somebody that just popped up. And so yeah, all my my games, like I did a 1984 replay, and I just played the Tigers by hand. It took me about a year or so. And then the rest of it, I just used Digital Diamond to fast play. So, you know, I don't know. It's also a stress thing. It's like the last, I've got a lot, just like you all, I've got a lot of stress in my life. The last thing I want is for this hobby to be another stress point. So I won't let it be that. So if it, I'm not worried about, it's taking me too long to finish my season. Oh, I made a mistake in that game. It's like, I don't care. I'm just gonna, just gonna enjoy the experience. So
It's supposed to be your stress relief, not a stress ad. That's for
right.
sure.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
it's kind of what I write well, used to, I don't write as much anymore, but I used to call wind therapy to get on my Harley,
Oh,
and so I call this card therapy. So it's,
yeah,
it's,
right.
it's something I used to get away from everything, and,
Yep.
and, of course it's engulfed me a lot lately, but yeah, it's definitely that, for me, on that question, I was actually at a client site. I travel sometimes. I'm a contractor, and I was at a client site, and we were having dinner and just BSing, and this guy is having a conversation with another guy, and he goes, did you finish your game? And the other guys, so they're having this conversation, and then I catch Stratomatic, and I'm like, oh, and I'm talking, this was probably 10 years ago. And I go, Stratomatic, and I said, I used to play that as a kid, and they were like, yeah, there's a big community still out there playing it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I went home, and like you guys, started to look it up online. That's what we all do now. And looked it up online, was like, well, I still have all my games in the closet, and for me, it was APA, Stratomatic, and Status Pro. Those were my three big ones as a kid. And I still had them on. So I remember exactly the day I popped out Status Pro. It was 1984, I believe. And I pulled those cards out and started looking at them, and all those memories as a kid started popping through. And I was like, oh, let's play a couple of games. And now look where I am. But that for me is what happened to get back into it. So I always kind of wonder about people's journey like that on the hobby, and when you and Tom and I talked about this a little bit yesterday off camera, but when you approach a project, what are you looking to get out of it? What's your main goal? Is it just to finish? Is it to, create a story? I just wonder when you sit down and do something, Michael, you're sitting down doing this gigantic co-op league. Tom, I know you're replaying, the Tigers. Grant, I don't know what individual projects you might be going on, because you have to find development time and play time, which I'm sure is a heck of a thing to do. But what do you guys look for in that? I'll start, Tom. I'm gonna put you on the spot and have you go first. But what are you trying to do? You got limited time, right? And you're playing a project. What do you want out of it?
Yeah, for me, it's like a time machine. I like to just go back into time. I like to, sometimes I'll go look up the weather for that day, what it really was. Was it a day game, a night game? How many fans were in the stands? And I try to take myself back to that time. Sometimes I'll go look up what were the big news stories that day. And just, I don't know, kind of get a feel. I haven't followed through with this, but one of the things I want to do is get an actual wall calendar from that. I'm really stuck on the year 1977, because that's when my cards are, and that's just when I had that kid love of baseball, and it's just a magical year for me. So I'm stuck in that season. But I thought about getting a wall calendar for that, and listening to music, the whole immersion thing. So what I'm looking for is not necessarily, I want to get through it. I want to have all these stats and see what happened. I mean, I do want to do all that stuff, but for me, it's just more just going back into time.
So when you step in your office and get ready to play a game on the tabletop, it's 1977.
It's 1977. You got it. Yep.
That's fantastic. I love that. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, so far since I got back into this, I've done 3 projects, all using History Maker Baseball. The first one was the '67 Red Sox, and I just wanted to recreate what I saw as a 10-year-old back in 1967. Really, first time really watching sports, and Kyle Yastrzemski was my favorite player, and just there was a magical season. I still as a 10-year-old, you don't understand what was going on. They call it the
Yeah.
impossible dream and things like that. Now, as a grown up, and now having seen the Red Sox win some titles, I understand. Going back was fun. Um, so trying to recreate, and I was also trying to see just how the stats were going to come out using qualities. That was my biggest thing.
Mhm.
And it was really incredible how close those quality. I kept the stats, and Yastrzemski hit his home run total right on the money, 44.
Really?
Little off on batting average, but not much. In RBIs, I think it was a little bit higher, but it was incredible. And looking at all the players, that was what was really impressive about it. Jim Lonborg did not perform like he did, but they still did very well. My second project was Keith had put out a 73 and a 98 anniversary set. So I put together a project where the 73, each franchise is playing their counterpart. So 73 Yankees against the 98 Yankees. And they would play a 2 out of 3 to see who would represent the franchise. Obviously, 98 Yankees did. And that was a fun. I underestimated how long it was going to take, but it was fun. And I believe the 98 Yankees. I think they ended up playing the Phillies. I don't remember now which one, 73 or the 98. I think it was 73 Phillies, and which was a surprise. Didn't expect them to go that far. And this last project, the Leap 2040 set, and I was out in Denver back in June of last year. I talked to a lot of people who had the set and didn't know what they were going to do with the set. And that seemed to be the consensus. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, I thought about it, and I said, I could do a small project, but are we really going to get a good idea of what these teams really are in the future? So I said, you know what? Let's go and play a whole season, 32 teams, 162 games. And the end of this year or beginning of next year, maybe, we'll have all the stats for 162 game schedule, and people can maybe look at it and say, okay, now I know which teams are interesting to play in that set. They're all interesting because they're all unknowns. That's the neat thing about it. They're all fictitious, although there are players. Jackson Churio's there. There's a bunch of Paul Skeens is in there. So Keith put in some superstars from today, 15 years into the future, and then all these other, players, fictitious players. So just want to see where that ends up.
Yet another brilliant mind of Keith popping in something that you just don't have out in the community. Just looking forward. And that, seeing Paul Skeens when he's 40 years old, out there like Nolan Ryan, right? You just don't see that stuff. I mean, you can mess around with that with like OOTP and stuff, forward those years out and see what it'd be like. And, but to have an actual cards and dice set out there like that, that's just a place a lot of people's minds don't go. I just think it's fantastic. How about you, Grant? Oh, wait a minute. Just before you do that, I got to stop something that's happening on the show in the chat. We cannot talk about Michigan. I'm a Buckeye. We're not going to have that. so you guys can kill your, I won't talk about what happened this year, although I don't like the end of what happened with my Buckeyes, but can't talk about that.
That's embarrassing.
I won't talk about your head coach. So we'll move on to Grant now. Grant, same thing for you. How about you? What are you looking for when you sit down?
It's a mix of the game development and the seasons. And when I first started, it was just picking the seasons from my favorite teams at the time. So it was BC Lions for CFL or Chicago Bears or the Seahawks. And then playing through those, over the last 10 years, though, that's really expanded to try and do projects from different eras to make sure the game's working properly. From a fun perspective, though, what I found was I got back into the hobby and I wasn't playing any baseball. I lost interest when the Expos moved out of Montreal. So 2004, whatever it was, I just didn't watch. I didn't see inning of, and the first image I remember seeing was Curt Schilling's bloody foot. And that slowly started to bring me back into baseball like this. But then 4 years ago, Mike, we got started with the Baseball America set. And I was thinking, you know what? I need to force myself to play some baseball because I'm just not going to play baseball. And it's, I played more of it than anything else when I was younger. And so I thought if I start a co-op league using the Baseball America set, that will force me 4 games a month. And so that's a lot of fun with that. And that league's still going on today. We're getting ready for Keith to pull his Billy Bean thing. We get to see what next year. But it's fun, and I like the quality part. Brilliant mind coming up with that. And but that is all stats driven. Those do come from stats. So not surprising when you play a replay of a season that it's going to be close. There's nothing that's going to be perfect. No such thing. Not if you want some variability. But anyway, so that's one. But then for my extra time right now too, I've really enjoyed jumping on some of the different co-op leagues that are out there. Jumping in, playing a game of, the 81-82 hockey or the 2023 football. There's a few other ones out there. I'd like to get back into playing some basketball because playing some ABA just sounds like a lot of fun. I just haven't had a chance to do that yet. So most of my my projects are all based around the game. And like last year, I was coming up with version 2 of hockey. And so I did a lot of hockey. Right now I'm getting into doing an upgrade to football. So for the next, 4 or 6 months, it's going to be nothing but football.
Okay. Nice.
And by the way, Curt Schilling is actually, he plays APA baseball and he participates in the APA baseball Facebook group. There's been a couple of times somebody's asked the question, are there any celebrities or anything that play the game? And he's popped in and said, I play the game. So he actually pays attention to the group too. So.
I had him actually comment on a couple of my History Maker baseball tournament when he was pitching, and I was like, I don't know if this is really Curt Schilling or if it's just somebody taking that. But he seemed interested enough in asking questions, so maybe it was really him.
I'm glad you said that, Tom. I'm gonna put a little teaser out there for one of my future episodes without naming the person. I've become, I don't want to say good friends, but I've become friends with somebody who's a former major league player, and a very good one too, that everybody will know, in my time in Florida. And when I play, sometimes I will send him box scores, right? Because he's on Facebook and we're friends on Facebook, and I will send him box scores from his pitching performances. And he will comment back to me and like, oh, I didn't pitch that well that game, or and he just comments back and forth because we had some good conversations at spring training games together. And he's agreed to come on the show in a later episode. So he's not a big gamer. He knows about them. He knows about the different board games that are out there and stuff like that. So sometimes when I buy a new game, he'll ask me what's my card look like. So he's into the idea of it all, but he hasn't played. But it's interesting to see what he thinks about it. But he used to tell me that lots of players play games in the clubhouse, and because he's still around the clubhouses, and he said back in the 70s and 80s he played all the time, and he's around clubhouses now, and a lot of them play. So he said you'd be surprised, and some of them get really upset at how their card looks.
That's cool.
It's kind of like that Madden thing, right? They're all about their Madden rating, in football. And, he said, some of the guys get really upset, and they'll actually call like Hal and some of the other guys, Stratomatic and John over at Appa, and say, no, I'm not going to hit my power rating with this one, so, but anyway, I digressed on all that. So, but Grant, one of the things I wanted to jump on and talk about with you, and love to get the guys take on this too from their perspective, but express versus the full play games. And it's something that's new over Mike, maybe the last 3 years it's really started to pop out. And my own personal opinion is because people just, as like Tom, do not have time to play 3-hour games, and we would love to play an entire football game out. We'd love to play an entire basketball game out, but geez, it's going to try a season of that. Oh my God. It takes a year and a half to do baseball. Imagine how long it's going to take to do those games. So what kind of brought you, because you were one of the first Express games. I know Keith had a few, but you were really one of the first to pop out Express games. So what led you to that thought process, and what's kind of been the feedback of the community to you on your Express game?
So, I mean, what really led me to it was the fact we don't have a lot of time. And so I didn't want to spend a lot of time because remember, when I started with football, I did it for me. I hadn't really thought of selling it. And then when I did hockey a few years ago, it was, because I'd had some experience with it all. But for me, it was I wanted something quick setup. And so that's why I came up with the team charts so that, you can be set up and playing a football game in 2 minutes. I didn't want to have individual cards where you got to lay things out. And those games are out there, right? And so there's no point in reinventing the wheel. I liked how Keith did with the second season of Cold Snap. He's got like all the extra players on a chart this big, which is really cool. Don't need to do that. That's done. And that actually goes back to the that Canadian sports action game, football game, which I'm going to have to take out now and play again because I keep. But that's how they did it back then, back in the 70s. And so I just thought I wanted something I could set up super fast, didn't take a ton of space, and I needed to play it quick because, like my science background has got me going in a lot of different directions. Don't have a lot of time to play a game. I still wanted to get through playing a game. I didn't want to sit down for 2 or 3 hours to play a football game. And so that was the premise for me designing the game. But having said that, when I first started the design process, it was the whole meal deal. Like I laid everything out. The very first football game, it had everything. It took up like more than a table, had players, it had, every different type of play that you can imagine in different zones and areas and inside passes and pick play. It just way too much, of course, right? Take you 4 days to play a game. But I started with that and then pulled it all down into what I thought was a very playable experience where you had full stats. It forced you to use your mind a little bit to keep our minds active, and allowed you to have the narrative in your mind so you could see what was going on throughout the course of a play. And I just tried to follow that through with the hockey as well. Same thing, team charts. You do have the option to get player cards, but I like the team charts because you just pull the chart out, and with the quick decks, you're playing. I can be set up within a minute. I'm playing a game. I just take out my 2 decks of cards. I got my team charts, and start rolling dice. And now that's on an app too, so I don't even need to roll dice and make any noise.
Yeah.
It just felt like the right thing to do at the time was to try and create a game that was different than what was potentially out there. And like I've never played. I shouldn't say never. I played Apple football twice. I played Strat online a couple times, and so I didn't want to actually go and check out all these other games. I thought I want to start from what I know, what I think a football game is going to be for me, and get the game out that way. So that was the reasoning behind it, though, was I just needed something that felt like I could get in, play for an hour, hour and a half, like I'd accomplished something.
So you really built it for yourself,
Oh, yeah.
and then you decided, hey, this is working for me. Let me see if I can market it out. And is that true? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Yeah,
this seems
was
to work. So maybe other people will like it.
it was so back in 2016, 2017. So I'd been working on the game for quite a few years, and I was enjoying how it was playing, and I thought it was quite good. And social media was kind of just getting started then. And so I just threw a video out just to show, hey, this is what I'm doing, guys. What are you guys doing? Because this, it's a little bit of uh, that's what social media is about, show people what you're up. And I got such overwhelming response to it was like, wow, are you kidding? You got to sell that. Because, and I didn't even have a name for it at that time. It was just my football game. That's all I was doing. That's how 49 came up with. So as I'm putting all these things together and trying to, okay, get into the production and how to actually sell the game, I had hadn't come up with a name, even, like a couple of weeks before I was going to start selling it. So, as it was popped in my mind.
That's awesome. So Tom, obviously without time, because you're my time guy here, um, it, I would think express games would be like your top thing, but I do know for like, especially since you're a baseball guy, you seem to not really use express games. You're more of a play it out guy. So just wondered what you think on this as you hear
Yeah,
this.
I think I just haven't given an express game a chance, and not because I'm against them or anything. I just don't think I've given it the time or, given it a try. But
Not,
it's not a bad idea. You're right. Given my time limits, that might be something to look into for sure. Yeah.
well, considering the games that you play, because I know the ones that you play, there's not really an express game in those versions. So you would have to
No.
jump into History Maker Baseball to get an express game
Yeah.
out there. So it may be something to look at. I was just wondering, as you hear this, you're like, hey, maybe, because I know you're also a stats guy. Yeah. And I know you said you want to immerse yourself in 1977,
Right.
but you also like the stat results that you're getting, and so I wonder how
Yeah.
express would work for you on a trial run for baseball. So I
Yeah.
know Grant's, I've talked to you before, Grant, and I know you have zero desire, unless it's changed, to ever put out a baseball game, because there's a million of them, I think is what you told me at play. Although I'd love to see you create one. But I think you kind of are living in your hockey, football, CFL space. So am I right when I say all that?
So I've got a plan for baseball. I've actually laid
You
it a bit, and it plays good. It's not going to be an express game, and so we should probably clarify too. So my quick decks, I don't know why I came up with the name quick decks, but it's still a full play game. So
mm-hmm.
quick decks hockey, they're still full play. Like for hockey, you get face-offs, time on ice, plus minus, everything. Football, just about everything as well, from uh, tackles for losses, forced fumbles, all that data is available. So it's not a express game. But here we talk about express. I'm thinking about History Maker Express kind of condenses, like an inning dice roll or into a card flip. And so my 49 games aren't. The highlight hockey is different because it takes a full hockey game and condenses it down to the highlight. So that is a true express kind of game.
Right.
But so anyway, I just thought I'd kind of clarify that a little bit. And
You're
so,
right. You're right, Grant. Mike, I know you play express games. You're familiar, obviously, with HMB Express. What's your thoughts on the express side?
Well, for me, with baseball being my number one thing, I like the full play baseball. I have an accounting background, so numbers have been my life. Love stats. So for me I have to have the stats for my baseball games. Uh, the other sports that I play, mostly express, would be football, basketball, because like everybody says, I don't have time for an hour and a half game. I could do a History Maker Baseball. I did 3 games this morning in about an hour and a half. Boom, 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 and that's full stats, keeping everything. So I've got probably 600, 700 games under my belt now. So you kind of know on certain roles, you don't have to keep looking through the chart. But for the sports that take longer, I think the express games are great. They
Yeah.
get you what you need. And some of those express games now, they've got player helpers or whatever where you can find out who scored and you can
Yeah.
keep stats. So that makes it nice too. But
Yeah.
as far as keeping sports with any, stats with any other sport, it's really the baseball that I'm.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I've made this comment many times, at least to people. The last express game I want to play is baseball, and the reason is, why do we play express? We play express because what we all just said, which is the time piece of it. Well, whether I'm doing payoff pitch, status pro, advanced, HMB, whatever, I can generally do a baseball game in 10 to 15 minutes. So why am I going to express that? and I'm getting all the full stats. Now, but hockey is going to take me a while. Football is going to take me a while. Basketball is going to take me a while. So that's why I express. So for me, it was like, why did they even come out with an express game? But, because can it really be less than 10 to 15 minutes? So I'm already getting all my full stats. So why am I going to give that up? So plus there's just with baseball for me, I feel like I'm there as I'm, especially, Digital Diamond really helps with this a lot to have that graphic kind of look to it. Because I know you guys both use Michael and Tom use, and I'm not sure if you do, Grant, but that Digital Diamond kind of interface and doing, popping in your own results. It's still, to me, and I use the baseball background, the stadium background. So I kind of feel like I'm, as Tom goes, I'm immersed in that area. So the express piece would kind of take away from that. In my mind, or at least my thought. But I guess I should give it a try because I've never done it. I have History Maker Baseball Express because, and this is probably a whole nother show, I'm more of a collector sometimes, I feel like, than I am a player. I've got everything in my closet. And so Keith came out with it. I bought it. I think I told Tom yesterday, the guy comes out with tic-tac-toe, I'm probably buying it. But, I collect a lot of stuff because I feel like at some point I will pull it out of the closet and use it. So I've got a lot of stuff in there, but I digress. I do want to hit each of you with this next kind of topic, I think about three pieces, and it's really about the state of the hobby, because I think each of you have a very unique look into the hobby. You got Grant with the developer, you got Michael, who really is immersed in many different areas and many different people, and Dave's show and everything else. And then you got Tom, who's got that limited time, but he finds his way into the baseball community. So kind of what do you feel like the hobby is right now, today? What kind of excites you about the hobby, thinking about it? What concerns you about it right now, and where do you think it's headed? I know and I can repeat those back after everybody goes, but I'm going to start with you, Mike. What do you think on that? Where do you think it's at now? What excites you? What concerns you? And where do you think it's going? So I think there's four there.
Okay. What excites me is there's so many different games out there that it's incredible how many different baseball games there are, how they approach getting their results, and they all get the results pretty close to what you would expect in different ways, which I find truly amazing. It's crazy. Um, One of the things for the future, I think it's going to be pretty good. Again, it's getting the younger people involved. But I look at my case and probably all our cases. Yeah, we played them as kids, and you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you have grandkids, and you kind of get away from. You just don't have the time for it. And I don't know how many 30 something, 40 something olds are playing because they are involved in so many other things with their family. Um, that's, it's trying to get the younger people into it. Even getting people my own age or younger in my age bracket. Um, I, being a baseball nut, I'm in 4 local fantasy baseball leagues. Have been
Wow.
since 1990.
Wow.
30 going on 36 years, and we're talking about 40 or 50 guys.
Wow.
And do you think I can get one of those guys to sit down and play a board game and
Really?
explain? Yeah, it's really weird because some of these guys are really smart baseball guys. Some of them were baseball scouts in the major leagues. One of the guys' father played in the major leagues and managed in the majors. And the son is playing fantasy baseball, but I could never get him to sit down and probably play a game. And I'll joke about him and say, "Hey, I played a game back from the '50s when your father was playing," and he'll laugh and go, "Oh, how do you do?" So it's weird. It's. I think we're all in that same boat. Is you try to get people to sit down and play, and it's hard to find anybody. They kind of look at you strange. that's why I think that's why the conventions are so great, because
Yeah.
you're able to go out and sit there and share and play games with people that have the same thing that you're doing. And I just I if anybody hasn't gone to one, you have to go to one, because you'll find you're not a freak. There are people out there that are doing this, and and they all say the same thing. Oh wow, I didn't realize this many guys play. And I know some people just want to play at home and not be bothered with anybody. That's fine.
Mhm.
But I think if you get out there and you realize just how many people are, and I get, we say how many people playing, it is still a finite group of people that are playing throughout the country. I mean, I don't know what the numbers would be, but
Mhm.
you know, I think the future is pretty good, especially with all these new games coming out, and you can just get away from computers and things like that. You might be even better off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Back to the tabletop, right? You know,
yeah, yeah.
just give me my table.
Yep.
Tom, kind of thoughts on that? First, like, what excites you about what you see today? Um,
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things about this hobby is the access that we have to the developers. I mean,
mm,
I post a question out on a Facebook group, and I've got Derek Beckner, the developer for Status Pro Advanced, answering me sometimes in minutes. Um, same thing for I can send Chris Davis an email on Inside Pitch. I'll get a response in 10, 15 minutes. It's just I just think that's really cool. I mean, if I were playing a game put out by Milton Bradley or something like that, I mean, contact this.
never gonna get an answer.
Yeah, forget it. There's just no way. But I just think it's so cool that they're just right there. They're part of the community, answering questions. I like that there is a community, and it's for the most part, it's some really nice guys and gals, and that willing to help answer questions. Um, and yeah, and I like Uncle Ron Juckett. He said this.
Mm,
He believes this is the golden era of sports sim games. We just have so much talent out there. Like Grant and these other developers that are just putting out really good quality games. And yeah, so that excites me too. So, and it just seems like anything you want to try, just it's out there. I think you were saying, John, that there's a trucking game out there that that play games, but I mean that's amazing. It's just whatever you want to do. So yeah,
that was, and Keith, if you're listening to this, possibly, that was Keith's attempt to see if he could put out rock paper scissors and people buy it, and they did.
yeah,
You know,
right.
no, and I was telling Tom yesterday, because I was trying to explain to him a little bit about play games, because he's not familiar with them, and I was saying, yeah, that he's got a community so following him that he put out a trucking game and then went to a truck stop and had a big gaming convention about it. And people actually went to this.
Yeah,
I said that, that was when I knew Keith, is so respected. He could just put anything out and people are going to buy it. But I know he had much more passion about doing that. There was something in his childhood that was a big deal about all that. But I just think that kind of gives you an idea what play is like. I was trying to explain it to Tom. So, what, Tom, would you say, if anything, concerns you moving forward with
I,
with this hobby?
yeah. I guess I don't. Well, I've heard this mentioned a few times that just it seems like the hobby is a lot of guys about our age, and that is it going to die out? Is it going to fizzle out, or is it going to pass on as we get older and the next generation comes up? So, but yeah,
Okay.
other than that, no real big concerns. Yeah.
Okay. Grant, how about you? What excites you about what you see as the hobby today?
Yeah, I mean the era that we're in, it's pretty amazing. There's in it, and you can find one that will kind of fit your taste as well, because we all have different tastes when it comes to a particular game too. So there's that's got to be exciting for somebody who likes to play a lot of games, and for me as a developer, it's exciting because I can come up with different stuff. And so it is, I guess, to, like, what are the concerns as we move forward? And to me, the biggest concerns are like the social media is great, right? Because it allows us, like you said, Tom, we have communities, and our communities are really tight and they're really good. And every once in a while, you get a bad apple who comes in or says something negative, and it's a bit divisive, and that can media platform down just because of one bad person.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the community, for the most part, does kind of pull together and get past that. Social media is not going away. It's going to continue to evolve. The biggest evolving is going to be, I think, with the AI and artificial intelligence, or whatever you want to make the A for. I like making it artificial because it's not real.
Yeah.
Time where we are, as a society now, going to have to prove that we're human. That's we're
Mm. Yeah.
not some, AI bot coming from somewhere. So
Right.
good that comes with that, and there's also potential downside. And the good is we're going to still see more and more games. So if you step outside our sports board gaming industry for a second and look at the overall board game industry, everybody thought it had peaked a couple of years ago because there was so many great games, like and everything, and really well thought out and highly produced and all that stuff. And then you look at the opportunities for games now, and it's like tenfold what there was a few years ago. And if you start digging into them, you can see how AI has had a huge component in the making of those games. And I'm sure it already has with some of our sports board games. Some of uh, the express games, the simpler games right now, AI is pretty good at being able to do that. It's not going to be long before AI is going to be able to look at what I'm doing and say, yeah, I can just take your formulas and I can do this better than you. You got an idea for a baseball game that's not out there? Well, yeah, ours is going to be better. That's going to be AI. So, from a concern perspective, that goes beyond the borders of our sports board game, but it definitely impacts us in our sports board game arena too.
That's an amazing take on that, Grant, especially from a developer standpoint, that, because I do mess around with AI a lot, and it's part of my actual real job in life. And yeah, and Tom and I a little bit again yesterday touched on this, talking about it. And AI I think it's, first off, it's only as good as the prompter, and the prompts that you're putting in.
Sure.
And unfortunately, if you're not prompting it correctly, you can get a lot of bad information out. And then if you decide to then take that bad information and spread it around, now we got even bigger issues. So and I've done a whole show on AI, and Tom was like, I should do a whole nother one on AI. and there's just a lot of good, but there with anything, what is this Superman here? But with anything really good, there's going to be really bad. And anybody who's taken and simply just put a box score into AI and said, give me a review, you'll see comes back and it's like, wait a minute, that guy didn't even hit a home run. What are you talking about? And so you really, you've got to police it. You've got to train it. You've got to really work with the model to get those going. But I can see it's making people who are not talented seem talented in some ways. And that may sound like that's jealousy, but it's also scary, because if they start to put out a product and that product isn't any good and it starts to show its holes, do we start to worry about what's being put out from everybody else? Because reputation matters, right? And so I think that's a really neat thought there, Grant, because that actually pops me to the next thing. That is like, when you, especially for Mike and Tom, when you're buying a new game, what's your, Mike, I think you own, like me, every baseball game that's out there, right? So, if Grant puts out, and I'm not trying to put Grant on the spot here, but if Grant puts out a baseball game, what makes Mike or Tom decide they want to buy Grant's game? And Mike, I'll put you on the spot first.
For me, I'm saying it's going to be pretty damn good, knowing what he's done with his football and his hockey. I have his football game. I've played it a little bit. I have the hockey. In fact, I just got a whole bunch of sets last week or so. I'm looking forward to that. If it's anything like those games, I'm going to say it's going to probably be a pretty good baseball game. I've been
So
lucky enough.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
interrupt you, but do you put reputation? Sounds like you put reputation pretty high up there of what
Yeah,
they've done.
I do. Yeah. I think all these game developers, I put them up on a pedestal. And I always tell my wife, these guys are incredible. Because I've met a lot of game designers now over the last couple of years in person. And I've sat down for hours and talked to St. Patrick. I've talked to
Mhm,
Grant. I've talked to Clay Dreslock,
mhm.
uh, Joe Bryan, Steve Shaw. And it's just amazing how they think about these things. So if they've put out other good games, the pretty good chance they're going to put out a good game of baseball. I wouldn't surprise me with Grant to have a good baseball game.
Yeah, yeah. Reputation's important.
Clay Dreslock showed us last May 2 other games that he was baseball games, separate baseball games from Season Ticket and Sports Mogul, and they were incredible. And that was back in June, and I'm not sure where he's gone with those. They were completely different, but fascinating, and hoping someday that they get released because I think they, from what I could see, they were really good. Uh, same thing with ST. I mean, he's coming out with a basketball game, and from what I've heard, it's going to be fantastic. Uh, I know his matchup football is incredible, and have no doubts. He puts a lot of research into what he does, and I think that's it's really who the games are coming from. And I think it's helped that I've had a lot of in-person communication with these people, and I've got to know them as a game designer and a person, and uh, I think they're great. They're fantastic for the community.
What Micah made a comment in the chat. Blank ball. What's blank ball? Anybody know what he's talking about? Blank ball is such a cool concept. Maybe that's a typo.
No, it's a game that Keith put out. I believe it was for one of the conventions. I don't know if it was part of his Ocho games or if it was or
Oh,
if just if it's another freebie on his site. But I think
It was
that's what he's
Clay's.
talking about.
he's claiming it's something Clay
Oh,
showed. Yes.
oh,
Yeah, it was
okay, okay. Was that what he's naming it? Okay, okay.
Oh, so is this the off game from the season ticket? Because the season ticket said
Oh,
blank
I know.
ball must be his.
It's coming
Grant's
to
shaking his head. Must be
yep.
his new game.
me
That's
now.
what I-
It's
yeah.
coming to me now. Blank
Yeah.
ball is you start out with a blank player card,
You're
and
right.
then as the game and season progresses, that card changes.
Right.
It was a
Really?
fascinating, so really fascinating concept. Now it's coming to me.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the
Do you
game.
know? Do you know if that's out, Grant, or Mike?
Not that I'm
No,
aware of. He was
not that I'm
pretty,
aware of now.
prototyping a
Yeah,
year ago now. But
Yeah,
but
Micah, if you know, if you've got it, or if you played it, or whatever, comment in the area there. See, told you this is why I like Micah. Micah's got some interesting things. He's one of our younger guys, so definitely. So, Tom, how about you? I know, again, I'm going to throw back the time thing on you, and you can't have every game in the world because how are you going to get to them all?
Right.
But what's going to make you? Because I think what you said, you started with APA, right? But
Started
you
with
did
APA.
move on to other games, and you've owned
Yeah.
Status Pro Advanced and all those others. So what makes Tom decide to take that jump on another game?
Yeah, I actually kind of have a resistance to getting new things now, just because like you said, I can't even play what I have. I don't know if you know Mark Miller, aka Jerry Kwan, and
Yes.
he's a fellow Michigander, and we got to know each other, and we've had a couple of meetups in about halfway point in Lansing, and he just had some old seasons, and I mean he gave me, I mean, I don't know how many payoff pitch seasons, and I'm just like, I don't know when I'm going to get to all these. He's an incredibly generous guy. So I kind of have a resistance to that, but I will say, I mean, when I got back into this hobby and all I had was the APA cards, and then I kind of got a hankering to get something else. I remember going out to a Facebook group and saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about a new game. Any ideas?" And I think, John, you were one of the people that responded, and I kept getting payoff pitch, and over and over. So I went ahead and took the leap on that, and haven't regretted it. It's a great game. Um, you know, the season that I'm doing right now, I call it a hybrid season because I bounce around. I'm playing the same season or the same games in the season, and I'm using Digital Diamond as kind of the recorder for all of that. But I'm bouncing around to different games just based on mood. Right now, I'm in an inside pitch mood, but what would want? Yeah, like I said, I've got kind of resistance now to like. I don't know if I want to take on new games, but if I hear somebody like History Maker Baseball, I will say that's one I keep hearing over and over and over again. Great things and great things. So my interest is peaked on that, and I may pull the trigger on that sometime. Yeah.
So would you say that kind of maybe the buzz and social media might make you at least take a look at something?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Grant, hearing those kind of things, from two different viewpoints, you got Mike and I who buy everything that comes out. Because we love everything that's out there. We love all the developers. We love everything that's going on. So Mike and I are sold. All you got to do is put it out. But you got somebody like Tom who doesn't have as much time. And so he's a little less ready to pull a trigger. When you hear all that, what goes through your mind as a developer?
I think from where I'm at, like I game and I hope people are going to like it. And I think what the proof is when people keep coming back buying new seasons. I do the in-season sets for CFL, NFL, and NHL. There's a lot of interest in that. And so, it tells me that, and that was the first concern too, right? I put out a game. Is everybody going to take it, play it once or twice, put it on the shelf and never hear from anybody again? And that's certainly the case, so that tells me that what I'm doing works. And I don't think any game is going to hit every niche what people are looking for. And so I think I just put out a game that I like, that I think is good, and I think is going to appeal. And so, and with the baseball, I think that's there. And then, let it go, see what happens. I mean, that would be the hardest part. Well, football out there I knew I had a pretty good initial following because a number of people that were begging me to put it out. When I did hockey, it's because I had done, I think, a pretty good job with the football that a lot of people bought the hockey. And so, for me now, it's just a matter of having time to go ahead and get games put out there because I want to keep supporting and the football and making them as good as I possibly can. I think that's just kind of where my head's at.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I don't really buy too many. I've got inside pitch. The season that I bought still in shrink wrap. And so I've got bank shot basketball, and I did mostly. And so I think I played through half of a game. I just don't have the time to really put into it. But the games I do have are like I've got a number of Keith's games. So I've got the 20th anniversary set of second season football, shrink wrap, put aside. So like a collector, a little bit like you guys. So I do. And the other thing I want to bring up is the conventions too, and the importance of conventions, because I know Michael's really been involved with the Digital to Dice one. He's going to be again this year. I think one of the most disappointing things I ever heard last year was during the play when Keith came on with his talk and said, we're not going to do a play.con. I really was disappointed. Like,
oh yeah,
it bugged me because I've enjoyed, it's a lot of the same guys. There's always some new guys. And so I'm thinking like, well, how can I fill that in? Cause I've got a issue with timing with the digital dice one, which I'm working really hard at trying to overcome so I can make it to that convention. Cause there's just a lot of fun to be around people who are like-minded. And, we didn't just play sports games. Last year, we played a bunch of other games too. So, that it's just such a big part of our community. If it's something's close to your area, definitely I'd say do your best to get out there.
Yeah, I think, just piggybacking on that, and I'm right here now in Colorado Springs. when he said that, I think I fell out of my chair.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me? And my first thought right away, and I understand why he's doing it, because, you know, his son taking off is, you know, he's got a lot going on personally, professionally, everything going on. So I get it. My initial thought kind of right away was, I'll do it. I'll take it over for you, Keith. I'll do all the work on that. You know, I'm not, I keep telling Mike, I've said this 1,000 times. I convinced Dave and Ron, well, not so much Ron because he didn't really want to do it, but I convinced Dave to do that digital to dice convention when I was on his show. I said, you've got to do one. You got to do one, because at that point, before that first one that you guys did, Mike, the conventions were APA, Strat, Play, and you kind of just touched on it, Grant. Play allowed more in on this last one, but before that they weren't. It was you had to play that game, you had to play that vendor, and I kept telling Dave, you got to have a convention that just brings in everybody. And he was like, no, it'll never work. It'll never work. It'll never work. And here we are, Mike. I think you would agree, it worked just fine. It's as the reason Keith pulled that, as Mike can probably definitely attest to. It's a crap ton of work for these guys who run these things. It just the logistics and the hotel and the setup and getting everybody in and getting, you know, just putting agendas together and making sure everybody's happy, because that's the hardest thing, right? You're trying to make everyone happy, which is impossible, but you're trying. I think is what it is. But yeah, my first response to that was fall out of the chair. Second was craft an email to Keith saying, I'm local, I'm here, you need me, I would do it. I have not heard back from him, so I would love to keep that Play convention going, because I think it's in a different geographical location, which is really nice. Do you and I, Grant, out here? But I also think it's every year. I only went last year, was my first year to it, but every year that thing has become bigger and bigger and bigger. And you got guys like Micah who came, you know, brand new guy, you know, nothing, never been in anything before, and he came out there and you could see the during the headlights look with him. But now look at him. Now he's getting more and more comfortable with us, and I can imagine I want to see him at that next convention and see how his gaming experience is gone, and see him face to face, and probably get it at Digital Dice. But love to see it out here at Play, and that Play community, like I said, you know, Keith can put out, you know, rock, paper, scissors, and he's going to sell it. That is a big time APA back kind of group, almost like, you know, matching, you know, you can't say anything bad about Play. You're going to have a million guys on you, just like APA. And that's because it's such a tight knit community. And it just to not have them get a place to go each year. I don't know. And we went to dinners, and we went, and he has that Thursday where you're out having a picnic. I mean, it was really evolving. It was getting better every year with everything he did. So I would just hate to see that momentum go away. So again, Keith, if you're watching, I'm still offering. So, but one other thing that you said, Mike, about ST Patrick, and that you've had conversations with him and blah, blah, blah. One of the conversations I've had with him that I want to talk to you about, Grant, is the feedback you get from the community on your product. And you know, these are your babies, right? And you know, you built them not for us, but for you, as you said. Once the second you turn them over and make them public and charge for them, there's a whole different expectation around what you deliver. But at the same time, it's still your baby. And one of the things that ST always talks to me about when we have our conversations is how people give their feedback. What's the tone? How do they say it? And I just wonder, you know, without spilling people's names and without giving us too much drama, you know, what's the feedback like when you initially release a game? Do you get 99% positive feedback, or do you get people who really chase you for you're missing this, you're missing that? You know, what kind of feedback do you get from the community? How does it make you feel when you get negative feedback?
I'm okay with it. I actually take it all in, and I think that I wouldn't call it negative feedback for the most part, if somebody's got something to say, it's constructive criticism. Here's a and version control on documents, right? And if anybody should understand version control on documents, it's me, because I let out space qualified, which is impossible to get done. It's so hard because you have to, every I has to have a dot, T has to be crossed, all that stuff. Well, on all of my charts here, I don't have any version control at all. Right. So somebody said, like, how do I know which chart? Because I keep updating them all the time. So that's constructive criticism. I love hearing that. That doesn't mean I'm going to be able to get everything fixed to do with what this person wants right away. I'll work at it. But yeah, I like hearing stuff like that. If it's somebody who is like on a social media post that says something about my game that I know doesn't on the game, isn't part of my YouTube channel, I just, block delete, I think is how my buddy, whenever he got negative, he does a fly fishing show in Canada. And he said there's somebody doesn't like the way he took a fish out of the water. And instead of being constructive, negative about it. So he says, yeah, just block delete them and they don't have to come back again. So I find if somebody is really negative, because maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they don't like my game for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. That's fine. There's a lot of other games out there. And that's what's so cool about the industry they're in right now. If you don't like my game, there'll be a game out there that you will like.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, you talk to a lot of developers. What do you hear from them, on feedback?
I think it's pretty much what Grant said. Again, I don't think it's negative criticism. It's just people looking to maybe throw their ideas out, and they seem to, all these game developers that I know are all welcome. They all welcome, comments and thoughts and things like that about their games. Uh, and I see some of the posts where I'll see something that I think is just totally ridiculous, and I'm sure the game designer does too. And I'm like, why don't you design your own game then? you know, um, are there games that I, that don't appeal to me or don't work for me? Yeah, I do, but I don't go on and post it. It just doesn't make any sense for me to say, oh, yeah, this is no good or whatever. It's everybody's got their own way of doing things, and you know, I could never sit there and create a game. So I look up to these guys like gods. It's like these guys really know their stuff. My designing a game would be grab a piece of paper and two dice and figure something out. But I don't have the time, and I just these guys just do a great job. So I think they know how to push back on or just ignore the comments that really don't apply to the game. And I think
Okay.
and they do it in a right way too.
Tom, one of the things you said when you were when you were talking was having access to the developers was really something that you really enjoyed now and excited you.
Mm.
So do you in that with that have you provided any feedback on the game itself rather than just questions about how the game works? Have you talked with maybe Derek and said why I don't understand why this is here. I think you and I talked about why did you put that RN or picture LH on there? It's like what does that LH even do?
Well, most of them have been questions, but I think one time with Joe Bryan, there was something in his directions that I didn't feel was clear, and I expressed that to him. I hope I did respectfully. Now, did he make the change or anything based on that? I don't know, but I've tried to provide some constructive criticism. I think that's another thing, and not just payoff pitch. Payoff pitch, the directions are pretty good, but some of these games, if you didn't have the online community to bounce questions off of the directions, can kind of leave you, wondering what's going on. So, but yeah, I don't, again, whether or not they've taken some of my thoughts on that, I don't know. yeah, but I've tried to provide some feedback.
That's
Yeah.
that's a great kind of topic that you just kind
Yeah.
of created there, Tom, that I don't even think you know you did, but you did, which is when you buy a new game, and this is really for all three of you because Grant buys too. Um, what do you do? Do you take the instructions and read them and then try to play it? Do you jump on YouTube and try to find somebody who has played it? Or do you jump on maybe the site, like Grant's site, and Grant does some fantastic, because this is how I learned your game, Grant. I didn't read your rules. I watched you play it. There's nothing like watching the developer play his own game, because he's going to know how to do it, right? And Keith does a great job of showcasing his games like that too. So I'm wondering what each of you do. Is it a hybrid of all that, or what do you do? And this time I'll start with Grant.
So a bit of a hybrid, I guess, but it's mainly I want to watch a video. If I bought a game, I've seen a video like payoff pitch baseball. So I brought it in. I think it Commish or
Yeah.
YouTube. So that, I mean, he did such a fantastic job.
Yes.
I was up and running with the game because I'd watched that, and the rule book was there. I don't even know if I even printed it off or cracked it open because I already knew it. It depends on the game as though too. So like a non-sports board game, some of those games get pretty complex. Some like the Hex Encounter war games and whatnot. Those are I don't know what the right word would be, but you know what you're getting into. You have to be going through the rule book, and you have to remember rules, and you have to make your own notes. I haven't come up across a sport board game that you've had to do that yet.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, how about you?
Same thing, hybrid. Most of the games that I've bought probably because I watched videos first and watched
First.
and got that. I'm one of those people. I don't want a 20-page rule book because I'm not going to read through all 20 pages. I'm just going to
Yeah.
skim through it. If I can watch a video
Mhm.
on YouTube, great. And I've had the pleasure of sitting down at conventions and sitting down with a game designer and playing with the game
Yeah.
designer. What better experience? And they make it so much easier to understand. It's like, oh wow, because they designed the game, they know how to play it, and that experience alone is really what I like about the community.
That's a great addition to why you should go to conventions, Mike,
Right.
because I learned the matchup college football from ST.
Mhm.
From ST. We sat down. Oh, you might have even been there.
Yeah.
I sat down and played against him, and I mean, come on, how else? That's YouTube in front of you, right there, and you could stop the YouTube video by asking him a question. So I mean, I was just peppering him with questions as we were going along, and so I
Yeah.
learned it right there. And that is I go to a play convention and learned ST's game. So it's a
Right.
major benefit. You can go to the play convention and learn Grant's game. Grant had his game out and was showing people stuff. And so again, another reason why we've got to have this play convention, not just because it's called play, and it doesn't need to be named play. Maybe I will create one and just get everybody to come out for it, but the whole idea is that you can absolutely learn from the developer. And what I think if we were to put together the top 3 ways to learn a game, I think all of us would probably agree: the developer, the YouTube, and then the rules.
And you really rings true. Somebody see the game through how, and that's a really rewarding thing. And somebody's really understands the game because they see it through your eyes. And that's not, but I think it gets there by having these videos and all this content out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Tom, how about you? I mean, when you bought Inside Pitch, was it, Mike brought up a great point, which is, did you watch it first before you bought it? Or did you buy it and then watch YouTube videos? Or were you a rules guy? Read through them?
That's an interesting one to pick out, because that was one I told you that Mark Miller kind of cleaned out his basement and gave me a bunch of seasons, and he gave me Inside Pitch and a couple of seasons to go along with it, and I'd heard a number of people talking about that game, and so I got it out. But yeah, the usual thing that I do though is an interest will hit me, and the first thing I do is I'm going out to YouTube. So like the other day, my mouse died, so I'm out looking up YouTube videos, best mouses, and so it's the same thing, I'll go out and I'll hit YouTube, and that'll help with the interest, help me make the buying decision, and then when I make the purchase, I'm excited, I'm waiting, so I'm out watching more YouTube videos trying to learn the game. But once it gets in, then yeah, I'm cracking open the rules and trying to follow them the best I can. Yeah. So kind of a hybrid. Yeah.
Let me ask this. Hopefully, I'll get an honest answer from everybody here, but you don't have to give me one. When you are, because we're all in the Facebook groups, right? And you got a developer here, and when somebody posts a question, and I'm not trying to stop people from posting questions, because I think that's what's great about the community. But when it's obvious that they posted a question that is been highly covered on YouTube, B, highly covered within the group, and all they had to do was do a search on the Facebook page, does it irritate you? I know you don't want it to irritate you, but inside, does it go, God, why didn't you it's right there in the rules, or it was right there in the Facebook group, just do a quick search. You didn't really have to do another post. I just wonder, and maybe it's my own pet peeve, but sometimes, and I'm talking about something really basic, like, oh, really? Did you watch anything? Does it bother you? Mike, I'll start with you.
No, I mean, sometimes when you read one, you'll say, gee, that's right there on page 2, paragraph 3. How did you miss that? But to me, it's no big deal, because I was in that position 3-4 years ago. So I kind of look at it from my point of view. I might have asked some pretty dumb questions or obvious questions. To me, it wasn't obvious, but to everybody else, it was, and I just missed it. So, I'm sure I probably ticked off some people, but maybe not. But I try to just figure, hey, give the person a break. I mean, I don't, like I said, I skim a lot of times through the rules, only because I know a lot of the
Up, boys.
Somebody's hungry.
oh,
Okay. We'll wrap up here in just a second, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, and the last thing I want to do is because that's counteractive to the whole thing about getting new people in. I don't want to be that way, but sometimes I'm like, and I'll just give an example. Like, you're on Status Pro and somebody's going, what does the PB mean? I'm like, really? That's like that's like the whole part of the game. I mean, like, you don't know what that means, go read the rule book a little bit, but again, I don't want to come back and be negative on them on the page, but sometimes I just look at it and go, well, you're being lazy.
Yeah.
You want the quick answer from here, and then they start peppering 95 questions, and I'm like, go read the rule book, man. It's obvious you just picked up the game today, and I get the excitement too. That's the other thing, is you're just excited. You got a brand new game, and you want to get through it. But go watch a YouTube video, read the rules a little bit, at least the first little bit. You don't have to get into the advanced part, but have the basics down, and then come back and ask questions. But there's I've seen some out there where I'm like, it's obvious you just bought the game, you just opened it up, and you want to know what the first thing is. And I'm like, wow. So I don't know. For me, it's just sometimes like, geez, come on, do a little bit of homework, show you have some interest in it. How about you, Tom?
I don't get irritated with it. I mean, like you said, if I saw back to back to back to back, it's like, go read the directions. But I can't say I've seen a lot of that. And I know I've been guilty of it. Just recently with Inside Pitch. Inside Pitch is pretty complex. There's a lot of little, twists and turns and things you've got to look up, and multiple dice rolls, and I just had a question on how to resolve an error, and somebody pointed me to the chart, and it was like, oh, the chart.
Yeah.
It's like it was just it was a brain fart, just. Right. Of course, the chart, and so, some of these games, it can just be a lot of information, especially at the beginning. And yeah, it's right there, but it's just kind of a mush. And asking these questions kind of helps clarify things. So no, I don't get upset with that kind of stuff. No.
I'm going to pose that question a little different to you, Grant, as a developer. You probably hear the same question often, directed to you. How do I do X, or how do I do it? Do you ever get a little frustrated with it? It's like I put that out there a million times and explained that to people, but here it still keeps coming into me over and over again. Or do you look at it and go, maybe I'm not explaining it well enough because I'm constantly getting the same question?
Yeah, more look at an opportunity to fix something if the same question keeps coming in. No, I don't get frustrated when people ask questions because they might have been away from the game for a couple of months and they came back to pick it up, and it might be an obvious question that they wouldn't have asked 2 months ago when they were playing it. Uh, so no, I don't get frustrated. And what I appreciate with the community, so the only social media I go on is my own Facebook page. I don't have time for any others. Every once in a while, I get to comment on something else because it's first thing that pops up on YouTube when I open YouTube or Facebook. Or maybe comment, but so I'm only ever on my own site, and community is great at answering questions too. And I think everybody would be like Tom, like and they're just like, no, somebody has a question they need answered for their own reason. I don't need to be the side that they that question. So the community, so I appreciate that. Um, yeah, here's page 2, paragraph 2. Here's a copy of it. Right? I just go get the chart. I should have known that, but you didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so and that's why I think our social media is good, because you can't get an answer like that rather than have to put the game away for a day until you get feedback from an email or something. You get pretty quick feedback. So
Okay. All right. Last question. I'll let everybody get out of here for their Saturday. But so it's going to be a this or that, and then why. And so when you play, are you more interested in the story you're developing or the stats? And I'll start with Mike, since you're right there on my right. No.
I think I think it's a little bit of both, especially with the History Maker baseball, because it's more of a telling story type of game, rather than just looking at a number on a card. It's, you're going from one column to another. I always find History Maker baseball like I'm sitting in the seats in the stadium, watching the game and watching how things are going to develop. So that's kind of what I like about it. What was the other part of the question?
Well, it was. Are you looking more at the story, or are you looking at the stats at the end
Okay,
of the
yeah.
game? Which one makes you more excited to play that game? I think you just answered it already.
Yeah,
By
yeah,
saying that story seems to be the most important thing for
right.
you.
But I do like my stats. I'm an accountant, so I like numbers. I
Yeah.
do like the stats, but it's the storytelling of the games. You play that game, never disappoints. There's always something unique about that game. It's got umpires in there, and there's that call where the umpire blows the call because from his view, it looked like it went fair and it didn't go fair, and kind of unique. Really don't know any of the other games that are like that. And there's so many little nuances in that game that does that. And that's what I like about it, is you play that game, and it's always something a little bit different. I've never had a game, you have boring games, but there's always something new that pops up in that game. uh, I just played a co-op game, Paul Fay's 1975 co-op that we're playing. It's a small co-op, and I was playing the Orioles. I'm the 75 Red Sox, using History Maker, but it was just one of those games. I hit 7 home runs. It won 17-2. Jim Rice had 3 home runs. Fisk had 2 home runs. It's that kind of stuff, and you go, well, it gets you thinking. You go, yeah, I remember when Jim Rice did hit 3 home runs in a game, or Carlton Fisk. So it's that kind of stuff that just keeps you going.
So you like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you like the story that supports the stats.
Yeah,
Really. And the
Yeah.
stats, the stats that support the story afterwards.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're into that as well.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. How about you, Tom? Are you a stats guy or a story guy? A hybrid
I'm a,
like Mike?
I'm a story guy. I mean, stats, I don't get too deep into stats, just the basics, the home runs, the batting averages, that kind of thing, wins, losses, strikeouts. I don't get into sabermetrics and all that. But for me, it's definitely the story. Like today's a great example. I think I shared with you, John, that my 77 replay, Atlanta's lost 21 straight. And and so I replayed their next game today. They had a 2-run lead going into the eighth inning. Phil Niekro was pitching like a 2-hit gem. He had to be taken out. They got bases loaded in the eighth. Walked in a run to make it 2-1. I'm sorry, that happened in the seventh. Eighth, another run scored. So they went into the ninth tied up, and then Pittsburgh walked it off with a ninth inning home run. So they've lost 22 straight. So, I mean,
Wow.
I just was like, I was just literally like, you can't, that can't be, this many games. And they were so close and so heartbreaking. And it's just in my little make-believe world. So it's all story driven for me. And like I said, it's going back into time. So yeah, story.
You create
first.
your own 1977 story, that's for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Second, I think it's Ron Juckett who said the second the dice hit the table, it's a new story.
The new story. Yeah.
Yep.
And what's funny is in real life, Atlanta had a 17-game losing streak. Ted Turner came in to manage one game, and then
I remember that.
Yeah, and this was that day, May 11th. So this was the game he would have managed. And, so close.
So, right there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, couldn't do it.
Rug pull.
Yeah.
How about you, Grant? I know that again. You're kind of like Tom in different ways. That time doesn't give you. You probably can't play as much as you'd love to. Do you have time for stories, or is it more just, hey, I'm testing my games, and if the stories kind of don't find themselves there?
I think my games are stories. I really do. I think they're like with the cards that drive the action. They're like with a hockey game, particularly about football. I think there's a story inside every play because of the buildup and how I've made you come to the and tell what's going on. And so for I really appreciate stories, like non-board games where the theme, you know, the theme that I really am drawn to that. And as I'm developing games outside of sports board games, it's more about story and theme. So I like that. But the stats are correct. If I know the stats are close or correct in a game, then I want the story from the game. Stats turn out to be, I don't care about those. Of course, yeah, I got to plug all the numbers in to make sure it's working right from the development. But I definitely am story first.
Story first. I lied, and I'm going to ask one more question because it hit me this morning. Like Mike, Mike and Tom both said you guys played like 3 games this morning, as I did. Does it bother you when you're doing a replay and it's not fictional, it's real life? And I'm going to give you an example. This morning, I'm playing my Status Pro Advance 1981. I'm about, 8 games in for each team. And Rod Carew hit his second home run, and he had 2 that entire year. Do you worry? You're like, oh my God, what's going on here? This dude's already got 2 home runs. Is he going to hit 30 this year? Do you look at that and have any pause for any concern? Do you worry about the game engine? Or do you just go, well, he may not hit any for the next 300 at bats. So yeah, I'm good. He just happened to hit them all in April. But I'll start with you, Tom. Does that worry you?
A little bit. Like right now, my 77 replay, Larry Heisel for Minnesota is batting .467 at the May 11th mark. And I mean, he's leading in home runs. He's just absolutely on fire. But that .467 batting average has kind of got me like, I'm hoping it comes down. I don't want it to be ridiculous, and I'm sure it will. The season's young, but it catches my eye. Yeah.
Catches your eye. Mike?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. It's I don't really look at the stats on a, especially early into a project, the numbers of what batters are doing early. I mean, people do that in Major League Baseball. Last year, the Yankees hit what 30 home runs against the Brewers the first week of the season, and everybody was talking about torpedo bats and this and that. And then you get to the end of the year, and look what happened. The Brewers had the best record. You know, after they went 0-4, everybody thought, oh, the Brewers aren't going to win another game this year. They're going to be the worst team in baseball. And look what they did. So to look at it early on, like your example, Rod Carew with 2 home runs, just could be, just happens. Now, at the end of the season, he's got 20 home runs. Then I'm going to say, well, it's got to be something wrong with the game engine, or just rolled incredibly lucky for a season, which I don't think is really going to happen. So early on and from game to game, I don't really pay attention to what the pace of the game engine's doing at that point. It's too early, and I don't let that affect me at all. If I look at the end of the season and all my guys that have hit 5 home runs or less for the season, and there's 20 of them in major leagues, and they've all got 15 to 20, then I'm saying, well, there's something wrong with the game engine. That just can't be. All these batters can't exceed their expectations. So,
No, that's a good point. Good
yep.
point. So, Grant, I'm gonna kind of phase that question a little different for you as a developer. In your testing, when you're testing, and my example, Rod Carew hits 2 home runs, or we're talking football, and some guys already fumbled 4 times. He only fumbled twice that whole year, and you're like, wow, he fumbled 4 times in the first game. Do you tweak your engine right away, or do you try to play it out more and get more results in so that you don't question your own game right away, your own engine?
I question my game all the time. I've been, football games going on 10 years now. I still question it once. And it to no avail either, never. So I think I answered this question not long ago too, on maybe one of my, that was that in most game designers, you're going to pick a number of where where your averages should balance out at a certain number in the future. And it's not after 3 games or 10 games. And it's typically depends on the sport. But for me, it's been a 60. I use like a base 60 for football, and I use that same base 60 for. I've come to me and say the game doesn't work. You're getting way too many goals in your game, and okay, how many? 3 games, 12 goals in one. There was 11 in another. There was 8 in another. Okay, yeah, that's where you're playing 81, 82. Okay, so they're 8 goals a game is average. Just, like goal game. It's just, I'll never hear from that person. A couple months later, they're season. So obviously, it does average out. Playing itself, I played through the 74 Vancouver, and there's a guy named Jerry, maybe I remember what year it was. Anyway, he had scored 17 goals in the first 18 games. He wasn't an 8-goal scorer. He scored 21 goals and ended up scoring 23 in my replay. He just happened to score 17 in the first 18 or 19 games. And so instead of being, oh, the game engine's broken, I was just more like, I'm going to just enjoy it because I know the game engine works. It'd be interesting to see if the dice roll goes that he maybe gets to be a 30-goal scorer, heaven forbid a 40-goal scorer, but it doesn't. It just makes me maybe look back and rework the math and like, no, the math works. It's base 60. It's going to work itself out. So
yeah, you're going to have one-offs for sure, and things are going to happen. And, the reason I bring that up, guys, is because maybe one of the negatives of Digital Diamond, if there is one, is you're right there, right in your face. It's got a line that shows what they did that year, and then you've got the sim stats right below it. And so that's why it caught my eye that Carew had 2 home runs. Had that not been there, I wouldn't even had a second thought about it. Or maybe if it was on the card itself, I might, because sometimes you get some games that they give the stats of the year on the card. I might see it there. But that's why it caught my eye, and it was like, wow, Carew, it's 2. you know, it's a two. But you think about real life baseball. I don't remember who this guy was, but I remember one year some guy hit 3 home runs for the White Sox on opening day in real life.
Tuffy Rhodes.
What's that?
Tuffy Rhodes.
No, he was a Cub.
Oh, Cubs. Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah, he was the Cub who did, but there was a White Sox guy who did it. I can't think of who it was, but he
Okay.
hit 3 home runs on opening day. He didn't hit one the rest of the year, and he had like 158 more bats before they sent him to the minors. So you just never know where that stuff's gonna go. And I also, as the last kind of thing to throw out there, if you think about people coming back and saying, like to you, Grant, I played your game and I got too many goals, blah blah blah. Imagine if, Mike, you talked about you just played a game, I believe, in a co-op league where you had 10 goals in your game, right? It was something crazy. I think you said you had 10 goals in a game or something, or I read something.
No, that was somebody today had a 10-goal game in the XHL.
XHL, that's what I read. I knew I read it somewhere.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was his first game ever with the XHL set. You'd maybe thinking, man, there's too many goals in this game. You got to play it out like Grant said and get to more of a, okay, I had 10 goals in that first game. So what? You know, I have 10 goals every game for 8 games, 10 games, 15 games. Oh, maybe we've got a problem. But you can't overreact. And I just wondered how people look at that, you know, and do you see that? And I don't overreact to it. I'm thinking Rod Kerr may never touch another one. I'm looking at his card and status pro advanced. Tom will know this. I think he needs like a 42 to hit a home run. And so it's like, how many times is that going to hit? I just happened to hit it twice in his first 10 games. So, you know, I may never hit it the rest of the year. Who knows? It'd be interesting to see where that goes. But I also have a big thing that I always say, it's replays, not replicas. Right. I don't want him to hit 2 home runs. I do
have a question. I have a question for Grant.
Sure.
And you're seeing it a lot because it just happened within the last week, and with the football game, and the New York Jets not having an interception in 17 games, which I just find mind blowing. Yeah. I can get my local Pee Wee football team for probably get a couple interceptions during the year. How are you going to handle it? And how do an outlier like that? How do you handle
that? If you play through their season, they're probably going to get an interception with my.
That's what I would think. Yeah.
Because
there's nothing wrong with
it. In hockey, with a player who doesn't score a goal all year, there's still a chance they're going to score a goal. Doesn't mean they will, but there's a chance they're going to score a goal. So I don't make anything absolute. I'd like there to be a chance for, like you say, it's not a replica. It's you're playing the game again, like these teams are playing once again. How they're playing.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen. You will get people though that will, the Jets will get 2 interceptions, and they'll be like, "Wow, the game is no good," because in real life they had 0. So it's kind of I know you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
You know, that's funny because I remember being maybe early on when I first got back into tabletop gaming. It was Abbott that I jumped right back into, and I was on like I believe it was a Facebook group, maybe it's Discord. I don't remember what it was, but somebody posted a box score, and Tommy Verizon, you know, the old Indian, Tom probably remember him too. I think he played on Tigers too. He popped a home run and hadn't hit a home run like all year. You know, he hit 0, and people were like, "Well, whatever you did was wrong." And it's like, I agree with Grant that you don't want an absolute, because now again, if all you're doing is just replica. So just go to Baseball Reference and read all the box scores if that's what you want. But these are supposed to be stories that we're telling, and it would be great if Tommy Verizon hit a couple of home runs. I bet he'd be happy. But do I want him to hit 10 or 15? No. Just like Rod Kerr, my example, do I want Rod Kerr to hit 15? I could accept 10. I really could. And go, I just happen to hit that number a bunch. But I don't want to see him hit 20. I think that, then I'm going to start questioning, what did I do? I see myself first. I go, what did I do wrong? Then I do the game itself, the engine. I'm like, I must have done something wrong, because I know these engines are out, and I feel like you, Mike, there's so many of them that are so good, and we buy all these games for a reason. Their reputation, they work, they do it. So generally, if the stats are off, I look at the person playing, then I do the engine, and that includes myself. What did I do wrong to get Rod Kerr two home runs already? But sometimes it just happens. But Anyway, I want to thank all of you guys for coming on the show. It's fantastic to have you all on, and I really appreciate it more than you know. And I hope you had a good time. Hope I didn't waste your Saturday afternoon. And
Enjoyed
hope
it.
to see you guys on a future episode as well.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that'd be great.
Saturday.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Yep.
We'll see you later, guys.
Great day, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.